Hello friends, I'm Rob, this is Digital Waste Short. House Orlock is a no-nonsense gang who's very straightforward and they love dogs. So this video introduction is very straightforward and it features a dog. There you go. Welcome to my video on House Orlock. This is going to be an introduction on how to play the gang and what to know before you get started. If you've seen some of my other videos in this series, it's going to be in the same format as that. So far, I've done Goliath and Escher, so if you're interested in those, check them out. And in the future, I'll be doing all the other gangs as well, so stick around if you're interested in that also. So what's in this video? Yeah, we're going to be talking about building a House Orlock gang, and I'm going to be talking about the strengths and weaknesses of the gang, what they do well and what they do not. Then I'm going to be having a look at the weapons and wargear, and I've divided the weapons and wargear into strong choices, narrative choices, and unique choices. So strong choices are obviously strong choices on the battlefield, powerful weapons and things that will do pretty well for you. Narrative choices are weapons that are maybe not so good, and you should choose them if you like the story behind them, but be aware that they're maybe not going to perform very well in a competitive environment, or, might be a bit disappointing in terms of power level. And then unique choices are just something that don't fit into the previous two categories, but I will, maybe unique to the house or something a little bit different that you can choose. Then we're going to have a look at the skills, and I'm not going to go through every skill choice that's available to all of your characters, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about some good skill choices, just picked from each of the skill sets that you have available. And then I'm going to go into a bit more detail about House Orlock's unique skill set, which is called Bravado. So each of the Necromunda clan houses, each of them have their own unique skill set that only they have available to them. And yeah, Orlock's unique skill set is Bravado, so I'll go through that in a bit more detail. And then also each house gang has their own unique mechanic. In the case of Goliaths, it's gene smithing. In the case of House Escher, it's poisons and chem alchemy. And in the case of Orlocks, it's the legendary name system. And this is kind of like works very similar to a skill set. So I'll have a look at that after I've looked at the other skills. Then I'm going to move on to giving out some roster building advice. So first up, I'm going to have some general suggestions, so things to keep in mind when you're building a roster, or things to know before getting started with the gang. Then I'll go through each of the different fighter profiles available and give some of my suggestions for what I think are some good loadouts that you can put on those characters. And then I'll have a little bit of some ideas about where to go after your first few games, so like the starting direction for your gang after you get started in a campaign. Then I'm going to have a look at some hobby tips. So this is things to know when physically building your gang, so base size and proxies and good bits for alternate weapons and all that kind of thing. And then finally, which is possibly a lot of people's favorite part of these videos, I'm going to do 4 example starting gangs that you can build. And this is primarily coming from a kind of physical miniature perspective. So the first one is one box WYSIWYG. So this is a gang that you can build purely from one box. No extra parts, just weapons and loadouts that are available on the basic sprue. And then second gang is going to be one box and a bit of converting. So you need to, if you can steal a couple of extra weapons from a friend with a bits box or maybe your own, then you can make this second gang. And then third gang is going to be 2 boxes and an upgrade pack. So at present time, Games Workshop sells the basic box of each of the house gangs, which is 10 man, 2 sprues of 5, and they also sell like a champion box, which comes with 2 of the unique house champions, and also 4 of the unique Juve prospects. So in the case of Orlock, that's Arms Masters and Wreckers, and the Orlock set comes with some dogs as well. And then Games Workshop also sells an upgrade pack, which is just 2 sprues, which give you some more weapon options, which are compatible with said gang. So yeah, if you buy those 2 boxes in the upgrade pack, then this is a list that you can make from that. And then finally, I'm going to give you my own personal starting gang, which is not high power level or, tricked out or anything. It's just the options that I personally find interesting. So yeah, let's go. Right, so strengths of House Orlock. So who are House Orlock? I'm not going to talk about the background of House Orlock in this video. I'm going to do that in a separate video. But generally, the playstyle of Orlocker, they are all-rounders. They are good at a little bit of everything. Jack of all trades, master of none type house. And indeed, this is one of their strengths. So yeah, they are all-rounders. They're not bad at anything. They can do a little bit of everything. They got fighty characters, they got shooty characters, they've got good weapons, good close combat weapons, good guns. They also have a good selection of skills. So yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can build your Orlocks, and you have the list that can support a lot of different playstyles. Second strength are the Wreckers. So the Wreckers are the unique Juve type available to Orlocks, and they're basically young Orlocks that have jetpacks or jump packs, and they do rocket-propelled attacks into people. So they're very dangerous and very high speed, and you have a lot of ways that you can build your Wreckers. And yeah, Wreckers are very, very strong. Next up, you get cheaper combat shotguns. So combat shotguns are a basic type of weapon, and they are, in my opinion, probably the best basic gun in the game. I really love them. They're very good, very powerful. They have some nice template options. They have some nice ammo available to them. And House Orlock get combat shotguns at a discount, so this is a fantastic strength of the gang. And moving on from there, they also have quite a lot of shotgun synergy. So one of their skills that they have access to gives them bonuses when using shotguns. So if you enjoy shotguns and combat shotguns, then this is the gang for you. And then finally, the last strength of House Orlock is that they have an interesting spread of skills. So each type of character, your leader and your 2 types of champion, each get a good amount of skills. So you can kind of have each character type focused on a very different battlefield role. You can have shooty guys, you can have fighty guys, you can have support guys, you can have all kinds of different play styles are available, and you have the skill sets to support that. So yeah, overall I think Orlocks are a very fun gang. They are all-rounders, and they're kind of the everyman gang, so they're probably pretty good for new players. But despite that, they are very strong, and because they have access to so many different abilities, and they're so flexible, I think they can do very well and you can get some very nasty Orlock gangs if you wish to create a very nasty monster gang. And having said all that, let's go on to the weaknesses. So first weakness is the same as the strength, is that they are true all-rounders. So this means that they don't specialize in any particular area. So there's always going to be a gang out there that can do what you're trying to do, but better. So as a good example, you're not going to be able to outshoot a House Fansar gang. You're not going to be able to outfight, a House Escher gang or a House Goliath gang. So yeah, if the enemy can take the fight to you in the way that they want to, then you're probably gonna crumble. Next up, I think most of the strongest weapons in House Orlock have pretty bad ammo rolls. So specifically, the weapons on the house list that you have that are very do a lot of damage and kind of your heavy hitters are bolt guns, plasma guns, and heavy bolters, and these all have pretty bad ammo rolls. And even your regular guns that you use on your basic gangers, like your combat shotguns and your auto guns, I believe their ammo roll is 4 up, which is not terrible, but it's not great compared to like the reliable las weapons that other houses can use. So yeah, if you have some bad luck with ammo rolls, then it can really mess up your day. Next up, they don't have many unique weapons. Like, most of the other gangs have got some unique, only available to their house weapons. Like the Goliath have got all kinds of cool close combat weapons like the Renderizer, and House Asher have got the Chem Sprayer, the kind of gas flamethrower thingy. But yeah, House Orlock doesn't have too many of those. Most of the weapons they have are available on the trading post or to other gangs. And then moving on, one of the unique weapons that they do have is the Harpoon launcher, and the Harpoon launcher, I'm sorry to say, it gets my vote for the most disappointing weapon in the game. Harpoon launchers are really, really cool. If you've seen my channel, you might know that I have a freebooter orc army. I like pirates, I like nautical themed forces. I think that's cool. I think harpoons are cool as well. Fire it out, impale somebody, drag them towards you, do the whole type thing. So yeah, harpoon launchers in Necromunda should be really good fun and should be amazing. And they're not. So, maybe I'm just coming into harpoon launchers with high expectations, but the fact that harpoon launchers are not great is a huge negative for me, because I think harpoon launchers should be cool. Well, they are cool, but I think they should be strong as well. And then next up, another weakness that I feel is that they have limited weapon loadouts for their special champion compared to other gangs. So what I mean by this is the Arms Master. There's only really kind of 2 ways you can build him. One is, well, we'll talk about that later, but basically you have like the arc hammer or the shotgun versions. And he has a very, very limited house weapon list compared to a lot of other champions and a lot of other gangs, which isn't super exciting compared to how flexible a lot of other options you have in this gang are. I mean, the Arms Master is very strong, so it's not like it's a power problem, but yeah, it's a little bit disappointing. But yeah, it's not too bad. All right, next up, special mechanics. So as mentioned previously, House Orlock has the legendary name system. So basically this means that Orlock fighters can get legendary names, which are like kind of nicknames or nicknames or kind of whatever, gang call signs or whatever you want to call them, and they confer bonuses to said fighter. And it's basically, it works very similar to a skill system, so it's like kind of having an extra skill. They're not quite as strong as skills, but they do give you downsides as well. But it's a cool system, and it's on top of regular skills, so it's pretty neat and it's pretty flavorful. Next up, as a special mechanic, they are Orlock are kind of masters of solid shot, short range weapons. So as a flavor thing, most of the Orlock weaponry uses bullets. Autoguns, shotguns, they all use bullets or cartridges or physical things. They're kind of the dependable old-fashioned types, which is a pretty cool flavor. In a gang, in a hive full of crazy crazy laser tech people and hoverboards and all this kind of stuff. You know, they're just regular guys with shotguns and, you know, machine guns and stuff like that. Yeah, another kind of unique thing that Orlocks get is their gang specialists can take heavy weapons as well as special weapons. This isn't completely unique to House Orlock, because I believe House Van Saar can also do this. But yeah, it's nice and it gives you some options later on. You know, just wider variety of weapons is always nice. And then finally, this probably should have gone in the strength section actually. They get discounted ambots. And ambots are one of the best brutes in the game, and they're really cool, and the models are cool. Yeah, I like ambots, and they get ambots for cheap, so that is good. Alright, weapons and wargear section. So let's start with the strong choices. These are good choices. They're maybe not the most powerful choices, but they're basically weapons and wargear that you can't really go wrong with. These are all very good choices. First up, one of my personal favorites is the stub gun. This is not flashy. This is not super powerful, but it is 5 credits. It is +2 to hit at short range, and yeah, that's it. It's reliable, it's cheap, and those two things are very, very useful. Not going to win you games, but it's definitely something to look at for a nice little backup weapon. Next up, combat shotguns. I love a good combat shotgun. They have good strength 4 shots, and they have a template shot, and you can also buy it the fire ammo, which turns it into kind of a strength 5 heavy flamer for substantially cheaper than a regular heavy flamer, and substantially better. So yeah, combat shotguns are great. Yeah, have some combat shotguns in your gang and enjoy using them. Next up, we have weapons that are basically good for everybody, like any gang. Anyone who has access to bolt guns, heavy bolters, plasma guns, or plasma pistols. Yeah, if you have access to these weapons, then go ahead and take some because they're very good. You know, bolt guns, heavy bolters, they punch hard. They are relatively hefty while being not too expensive. And then yeah, plasma guns and pistols are some of the best special weapons in the game. So yeah, plasma and bolt, excellent choices. Next up, grenade launchers. Old Faithful, grenade launchers are very good. I would caution against kind of grenade launcher spam. You know, maybe 1 or 2 grenade launchers in your gang at the start is probably 2 is maybe pushing it. But yeah, grenade launchers are very good, and so they're a good choice for like specialists or like a cheap support character. One thing to note though is that for their house list, Orlocks cannot take smoke ammo, and it's not on the house list, so they can get it. They can get smoke ammunition for grenade launchers in the trading post, but they won't be able to get it at gang creation. And yeah, one of the good uses for grenade launchers is putting out smoke ammo, which, you know, blocks off enemy fire lanes and gives you cover and stuff like that. But worth noting that Orlocks cannot do that. They have to wait until they visit the shops. Alright, next up, close combat weapons. Power Maul, Power Pick, and Servo Claws are all pretty good choices for fighty options. So these are only really going to be used on your leader. Your close combat champion only really has access to arc hammers in on the gang house weapon list. But yeah, power mauls, power picks, and servo claws are all pretty good. Servo claws come in the basic box, so they're a nice choice. Yeah, they're all quite nice. All quite nice weapons. Out of the three, I would probably go for the power pick. I think, yeah, I think it gives you more damage. I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but I think the power pick is generally feels like it's more useful against more enemies, but I think they're all good options. Arc hammer, as previously mentioned, arc hammers are available to House Orlock's special champion, the Arms Master. And yeah, these are really, really good. They're expensive, but they're amazing. Very good damage, very good stats, and they also have the versatile trait, which means that they've got like a 2-inch range, so you can kind of throw them at people. I don't know, how does the arc hammer work versatile? I guess maybe it's like is it like Thor's hammer where, you know, you like shoot arcs of lightning out of it? Unclear. Leave me a comment if you know how arc hammers work in the fluff. Right, next up, less flashy but equally good, flails and chainswords. So these are available to your basic gangers, and if you want a kind of slightly close combat-y or slightly fighty guy, these are good choices. Flails are kind of your cheap, the cheap close combat picks. They give you a plus to hit and a +2 strength, I believe. So they're, yeah, excellent. Chainswords they just give you a plus to hit, but chainswords give you parry, so they're better, slightly better for kind of a defensive option. And House Orlock isn't a super close combat gang, so chainswords I think are a good choice. Then if you get charged by someone who's a bit fightier, you can use your chainswords to parry some of the incoming attacks, which might keep you alive a little bit longer. Then finally, flash grenades and blasting charges. So yeah, flash grenades, you throw them and they stun the opponent. They take away ready markers, which is very nasty. And blasting charges, yeah, they're very dangerous. They're probably going to blow up and kill you as well. But, you know, that's part of the life in the Underhive, right? Right, next up, narrative choices. So, as mentioned previously, narrative choices are what I decided to call this section. You could, if you want, rename this to like bad choices or, you know, less powerful choices or anything like that. But I think narrative fits better because these are choices that you take because you like the flavor or the narrative of the weapon. You know, you like a character, you want to build a character with a heavy flamer or a two-handed hammer because you think it looks cool and you like that and you don't care about the stats. That's cool, but yeah, be aware that game rules, they're not particularly strong, and those choices I've put in this section. So yeah, very few completely awful choices, I think. But having said that, heavy flamers, mauls, and two-handed hammers are 100% complete trash. I think this section will probably be in every video that I make, and you will see this advice coming from other Necromunda tacticas, written or video-wise, so you'll probably hear this advice quite a lot. But if it's your first time hearing that these weapons are trash, let me briefly explain why. Heavy flamers are unwieldy, which means that you cannot move and shoot, and they are a template weapon, which is a bad combination. And finally, they are incredibly expensive, so that's 3 strikes against the heavy flamer. Mauls have a negative armor penalty, a negative AP, which means that when you hit the enemy, they gain bonuses to armor, and that's bad. And then finally, the two-handed hammer, despite looking cool as hell, gives you a penalty to hit, which again is not good. Generally, we want to hit things and take away their armor, and yeah, so don't take those, they are bad. Next up, combi weapons. Generally speaking, I think, especially at gang creation, combi weapons are probably more expensive than they're too pricey for what they do. I think you're better off focusing on a particular weapon that you want. But that said, bolter grenade launchers are not super expensive, and if you have the kind of credits to upgrade from a regular grenade launcher or a regular bolter into a bolter grenade launcher combi weapon, you know, if you've got a few credits kicking around and you can afford this one, it's not a bad choice, but generally you're better off taking non-combi weapons, at least at the start. Next off, sawn-off shotguns. So sawn-off shotguns are, I believe, widely considered to be absolutely trash. Whenever you have a look at any kind of tactics discussion or weapons discussion online, generally you hear people put very negative opinions about the sawn-off shotgun. I think that it's not that bad. It's close to being very good. So the positive about the sawn-off shotgun is that it's got quite good strength. It's got strength 3 and scatter shot, which is a very good combination, I think. Yeah, so scatter shot is a weapon trait that means that each hit does d6 hits, and it's particularly relevant for combat shotguns because it's the trait for the template version. But combat shotguns scatter shot is strength 2, whereas the sawn-off shotgun gets that at strength 3, which means that your wounding dice gets better and you're getting more wounds because it's scatter shots. So that's pretty good. But yeah, basically it's too short range and it's too expensive. If it was cheaper or a little bit better range, I think it would be worth taking. But yeah, I think the short range basically means that it's probably not going to come into play very often. I've seen another suggestion online where if it had the sidearm trait and could basically function like a pistol, I think it would be really good. So if you really like shotguns and you have a gaming group that enjoys house rules, then maybe that's something you could play around with. But as written, yeah, sawn-off shotguns are not particularly good. Harpoon launcher. As I have made clear, harpoon launchers are basically very disappointing. And the main problem with them is that they're one shot, by which I mean, yeah, they only get one shot and they're not rapid fire or anything. So the whole thing is focused on 1 dice to hit, then 1 dice to wound, and then 1 dice to save. And any of that does go through. They've got good AP and decent strength, but they only have 1 damage, which means that they're not bad for taking out enemy mooks, but they're basically not good at killing champions. And you'd think like a big old harpoon launcher would be great at taking down, big buff champions, but yeah, they're only 1 damage, which makes them feel pretty bad. And then also on top of that, they have pretty bad ammo and the scarce rule, which means that there's a pretty good chance that your harpoon launcher is going to go out of ammo and unable to be used for the rest of the game. However, having said that, it's worth noting that despite being a heavy weapon, they're not unwieldy, so you can move and shoot. So, if your heart tells you to bring a harpoon launcher to games, then I'm not going to try and talk you out of that because, sometimes you just got to bring a harpoon launcher. But yeah, in my experience, they're just disappointing, and that makes me sad. Finally, hand flamers, and to a lesser extent, regular flamers. The problem with both flamers is basically that they're way too expensive. However, there's a very big exception, and this is the case of hand flamers on wreckers. So, hand flamers on wreckers move very quickly and they jump over stuff. Give them a hand flamer, and that is a very nasty combination. But on everyone else, avoid hand flamers and avoid regular flamers. If you want to do template shenanigans, then, that's what combat shotguns are for. Yeah. Next up are the unique choices. So these are choices that are unique to House Orlock. Though having said that, they are actually available on the trading posts, so other gangs could get these weapons, but they're on your house list, so, they count for now. First up, the Las Cutter, and this is a close combat weapon, and it's only available to captains. None of your champions get this, so only your leader can potentially take this. It's got really good damage stats. It's like kind of a close combat las cannon. I imagine it's like some kind of welding torch or something like that. And it's also got versatile. And it's got great damage stats, and it's also got versatile. So I imagine it's like some kind of close combat las cannon, some kind of welding torch for mining, or I'm not sure what it's meant to be, but it's pretty good. However, it is incredibly expensive, and considering that Orlocks are not super strong close combat gang, I think it's probably too expensive to be worth it. And also, this is a close combat weapon, but it has an ammo roll, which, you know, your close combat weapon going out of ammo is not ideal. So probably this comes into the category of basically being too expensive to be worth it, but if you think it's cool and you want to go for it, then it'll probably murder whatever you manage to hit with it. So, you know, you can make it work. Next up is the mining laser. And again, this is only available to captains and sergeants. So the sergeants are your champions, but it's not available to the specialists, despite being a heavy weapon. And yeah, the mining laser is really good strength, really good damage, really good AP, and a pretty decent ammo roll. You know, it's like a 3-up ammo check. The bad points about it is that it's short range and unwieldy. So yeah, move and shoot and short range is not generally a great combination. But it is relatively cheap, so I think you could probably get away with it. And then, obviously, when you've got the credits, you buy it suspensors, so you can move and shoot with it. Yeah, I don't know. I think the mining laser is pretty good. It's not like a super strong choice, but it's something a little bit different, and it's very Orlocky. You know, big mining laser. Big mining laser is cool, so give it a try. And finally, we got the seismic cannon. So this has 2 different modes of fire, and neither of them are very exciting. Like, they're very difficult to hit at certain ranges, and the strength and the amount of firepower you put out is not great. And also on top of that, it's also relatively expensive, and it's got pretty bad ammo rolls, and it's unwieldy. So yeah, this is kind of, it feels like, I don't know what kind of situation you'd want to bring the seismic cannon. Like with the mining laser, it's short range, but it's, you know, it's gonna murder whatever's close up. And if for longer range firing, you've got like the heavy bolter or the heavy stubber. So yeah, the seismic cannon feels like kind of worst of all worlds. However, the one unique point is that it's got the seismic rule. And seismic rule basically means that anyone who gets hit with the seismic cannon is pinned, even if they have a skill that would otherwise make them immune to pinning. And specifically, this is basically going to be anti-Nerves of Steel. So if you find yourself going up against a lot of Goliaths or other gangs who are rocking a lot of Nerves of Steel, immune to pinning type characters, then yeah, maybe you want to take a seismic cannon and just, you know, earth shake the Goliaths off their feet. But yeah, give them a try. They're a bit different. Next up, skills. So I'm not going to talk about each particular, like every skill combination that you can take, because there's loads of them. But I'll go through each of the characters, and I'll tell you a couple of good selections that you might want to take. And first for this section, I've got 4 characters on here as opposed to 3. So we got the leader, which is the road captain. We got the road sergeant, who's the vanilla champion. The arms master, who's the unique champion. And then a special mention at the bottom is the wrecker, who actually has a fairly unique skill set, which isn't found elsewhere in House Orlock, so they get put on this list as well, and we'll talk about them. The other 2 houses that I've done at this stage, their unique prospects are basically trash and don't have any interesting skills, so I left them off. But yeah, let's talk about these skills. So first up, Road Captain. Road Captain is your leader. And yeah, road captains have got loads of different skills available to them, and they've also got loads of different types of Wargear available to them. So I would suggest trying to make the 2, you know, your weapon loadout and your skill work in combination with each other. You know, pick 2 things that work for what you want your character to do. You know, if you want a close-up fighty captain, or you want a, you know, hanging back support captain or whatever, there should be some skills that will suit you. So first up, as a general pick, Nerves of Steel. If you watched my Goliath video, you'll know that Nerves of Steel is basically one of the best skills in the game. And for the purposes of being new to Necromunda and being new to House Orlock, yeah, Nerves of Steel is good all-round choice. If you can take Nerves of Steel and you don't have a stronger idea of another skill that you prefer, then yeah, Nerves of Steel is kind of the good default choice. There's no situation that Nerves of Steel will not be a good choice in. Another choice would be Overseer. This is under the leadership set. Overseer has a bit of a bad reputation online, I think. Yeah, Overseer basically means you give up your activation, you give it to someone else so they can double activate. So this is very strong, so you could do stuff like, kind of slingshot other characters into combat, or do some run and shoot shenanigans with heavy weapons or something like that. But the important part of Overseer is that you do need to build around it. So if you take Overseer on your captain's basically giving up their activation to give to someone else. So you're going to need to have one or two or other characters in mind to target Overseer. And then also you probably don't want to give your captain very much in the way of equipment, because they won't be using it, because they'll be using Overseer. So yeah, Overseer is strong, but you got to have a plan in mind when you use it, and you kind of want to build your gang around it if you do use it. And for people who have played against Overseer a lot, it does have a bit of a reputation for being powerful and not super fun, so it's got a bit of a, that guy vibe. But yeah, your mileage may vary. And then the next skill set that the road captain gets has available to them is Savant. Let's go back. Yeah, Savant, Ferocity, and Leadership. Just don't think I read that out. So yeah, road captains also get the Savant set, and not a lot of gangs get access to this set, and it's very, very good. It's an amazing support set. So even though other sets are very good, it's worth having to think about a Savant skill just because it's very rare. Your champions don't get access to it, so yeah, give some thought to taking one of these skills. The two standout Savant skills in my mind are Fixer and Munitioneer. So Fixer basically gives you extra income each game. You get D3 times 10 extra credits at the end of each game. And yeah, money, more credits is good. More credits can buy more gangers and more weapons and more gangers can win more games. So money is good and more income is good. It's not a lot, but yeah, a little bit of guaranteed income each game is worth thinking about. And then the other one is Munitioneer. So Munitioneer gives you, I think it's a 9-inch aura. And yeah, it lets you and anyone in that aura reroll failed ammo checks. And as I said previously, one of the Orlock's weak points is that they have a lot of weapons that don't have great ammo rolls. So yeah, if you're rocking plasma, you might want to have a Munitioneer captain hanging about. Yeah, so have a think about those. Worth mentioning as well, though, that Fixer is quite nice for getting income, but Orlocks do have a couple of other ways to get like passive income. So yeah, you don't have to take Fixer, but Fixer is still very good. Right, Sergeant and Arms Master. Again, Nerves of Steel. Pinning is bad, Nerves of Steel is good. This should be first rule of Necromunda, perhaps. So Sergeant basically wants to be shooting people, and Arms Master probably wants to be getting close and fighting people. And in both of those situations, pinning is bad. So yeah, Nerves of Steel on a shooting character means that you can keep standing up, so you can do an aim and shoot, or move and shoot, or whatever. And yeah, not being pinned on a close combat guy means you can do a charge. So yeah, Nerves of Steel is good. Another good option is Shotgun Savant. And this is probably only worth taking on the Arms Master. And Sergeants can take this, but if you're going to go with a shooty Sergeant, then they've got much better guns available to them. You know, if you're taking a sergeant, you're probably going to give them a plasma gun or a heavy bolter or something like that. But arms masters have a fairly limited range of weaponry available to them, and shotguns is pretty much their only option. So yeah, if you're going to have a shotgun arms master, then shotgun savant is very good. So shotgun savant means that it has two effects. Effect number one is that you can use your short range accuracy bonus for long range on shotguns, which means that you get better at shooting long range with a shotgun. And the second effect is that if you're firing with scatter shot, then you can roll 2d6 and choose the highest. So both of those are very, very good. Probably the best value of for this skill is with the regular shotgun, because combat shotguns quite often want to be shooting with their template, and so the bonus to hit isn't always going to be applicable. But yeah, you can use the combat shotguns with them, but if you want like the best synergy, then probably you want to take the regular shotgun savant, and then get some extra ammo later on. And yeah, don't forget, combat shotguns, regular shotguns, yeah, just those two, get extra shotgun ammo types at the trading post, and yeah, they're worth having a look at, so they can improve this skill even further. And then on to the Wrecker. So, Wreckers, fairly unique for House Orlock, get access to the shooting skill. And the shooting skill is, in general, again, one of the best skills sets available. So yeah, at first I read this and I was like, oh man, that's some good stuff. You know, you can have some great fun with the shooting skill set. However, then I looked at it a bit more closely, and a lot of the actual shooting skills don't synergize amazingly with Wreckers. So 3 shooting skills that I've picked out, which are 3 of the more popular ones. First up, Gunfighter. Gunfighter means you can do twin guns blazing without taking the penalty. So you can fire 2 guns with no penalty, and you can also fire at different targets. Yeah, double the pistols, double the fun. Gunfighters, I think, are a super cool kind of archetype in Necromunda. If you're building a gang, I think having a character with 2 pistols is highly recommended. I think it's really iconic and cool. Yeah, so this isn't too bad, but sadly, hand flamers do not have the sidearm trait, so you cannot use Gunfighter with a hand flamer. So if you jump in with a Wrecker with 2 hand flamers, Gunfighter, you cannot double shoot 2 hand flamers at 2 different targets. That would be very, very strong, but hand flamers don't have sidearms, so it is not legal, not possible. Next up, hip shooting. So hip shooting means that you can do a special double move action and then shoot, which is generally very good for characters who like to run up and use template weapons. Yeah, hip shooting means that you get a penalty to hit, which is why it's a good combo with template weapons, because template weapons don't need a hit roll. However, hip shooting means that you make a special like a hip shooting action, and the rules state that jump boosters only work with move simple and charge double actions. So basically you can't hip shoot jump boost at the same time. You can either jump boost or hip shoot. You can't do both. So yeah, this is kind of like a safer and more reliable way of moving than using the jump booster, because the Wreckers have got a straight up movement of 6. So you can do hip shooting to do double moves. That would be a movement of 12. So this is safer than using the jump booster. However, you're a coward if you do that, and you should feel bad about yourself. If you're taking Wreckers and you're not, jump boosting into walls and blowing yourself up, then that is a poor choice on your part. However, you could take hip shooting, and then you could also put some of your XP into increasing your movement stat of the Wrecker. the wreckers start with movement 6. You could boost that up quite a lot. It's a bit of a weird one, and you wouldn't be using your jump booster. But yeah, you could like pump up the movement stat and then take hip shooting, and then like Sonic the Hedgehog your way through the Underhive. That's not a good idea, and it's not recommended. But it would be weird and a bit funny to try that. So, yeah. Finally, Marksman. So Marksman skill means that you can ignore target priority when you're shooting. But again, yeah, wreckers quite often are going to be using blasts with grenades or template weapons, which is the hand flamer. And you don't need to worry about target priority when you're using those anyway, because, you know, you just splat the template down and you don't care about target priority. But yeah, there might be some use with like a plasma pistol jump assassination. Or I suppose you could also use like a stub gun with dum-dum bullets. Like you can jump down and then you've got marksman and you can ignore the meat shields and just, you know, take out the enemy champion who's hiding behind other characters. So yeah, there's some play in that. It could, you know, if you wanna make that kind of character, it could work. But yeah, generally the shooting skills don't really combo with the wrecker's jump boost equipment as well as I thought they did when I first looked at it. So yeah, in general, I think you're probably better off taking stat upgrades, and especially because wreckers are Juves, and Juves have got the fast learner ability, which means you can keep taking stat increases without the cost going up. So yeah, if you want to do shooting stuff, probably you're better off just like pumping up the ballistic skill. But, you know, these are fun and maybe there's some cool stuff you can do with it, so don't let me put you off. I do feel, though, that might be some combos that I've missed with taking a shooting skill and then getting promoted and buying better guns. So the way that promotion works is that after taking a certain number of advances for your Juves, you can then promote them to be a champion. And Games Workshop have FAQ'd it so that if a wrecker gets promoted, then they will keep their jetpack. So you can basically, assuming they survive long enough and get enough XP, you can basically eventually build a wrecker who turns into an arms master or a road sergeant with a jetpack. And I feel like maybe there's some kind of combo there. Yeah, so when they get promoted, they lose access to the skill set, the wrecker skill set, and they gain the skill set available to the champion, the relevant champion. But if they've bought skills as a wrecker, they keep those particular skills. So yeah, you could kind of build up your wrecker, and then you could maybe take a shooting skill, and then get promoted, and then you'd get access to better guns. So yeah, maybe you could maybe get quick, you know, double shot, and then get promoted into a road sergeant, and then get a heavy weapon, and then you could like jump boost up to like the top of a tower, and then do double shooting or something like that. I don't know. I can't see a really good option, but I feel like there's something in there. So if you think of any cool combos that you can get with the wreckers and shooting skills, you know, let me know. There's something in there. I feel it in my bones. Right, next up, let's have a look at House Orlock's unique skill set. This is the Bravado skill. None of them are amazing, sadly. They're not very good, but there's some cool options. First one is Big Brother. Big Brother gives bonus cool for gangers or Juves who are hanging out within 9 inches of this character. The problem is gangers cool is only 1 less than the champion. Yeah, it's just not a very good choice. Yeah, maybe if you got like a load of Juves, you might be able to get some use out of it, but not recommended. Next one, Bring It On. Issue challenge as an action. So yeah, you can basically taunt. You can use the Bring It On action, and it means that other enemies have to try and target you. So yeah, this is fun and narrative. I think this is really cool for like a big tough Orlock tank type character if you want to build that kind of narrative around them. Yeah, it might have some use if you have a plan for it, like sending in a really tough character to tank and be a distraction for your more vulnerable characters. But generally speaking, I think there are better choices that would be more useful in more situations. Next up, Guilder Contracts. This means that it's cheaper to hire bounty hunters and hive scum. But paying for bounty hunters is basically a waste of credits, sadly. Bounty hunters are cool, but the current system of paying for bounty hunters each game is pretty bad, so I don't think this is a good skill to take. Next up, King Hit. This means that you trade all of your close combat attacks, and you can make a single unarmed attack, and it gets a whole bunch of special rules like knockback and pulverize and shock and all this kind of thing. Is this a strong choice? Probably not. Is this pretty big gimmick potential? Yes. You know, this is the One Punch Man skill. So yeah, funny, but probably not super high level power. Next up, Shotgun Savant, which we've talked about briefly already. This gives you bonus to accuracy at long range and bonus to scattershot. Yeah, this is very good for shotguns, so if you have an arms master with a shotgun, this is a good choice. Lastly, we've got Steady Hands. This gives you a free reload roll at the start of each of your activations. This isn't too bad. There's probably more useful skills to pick at the start. And another hit against this is that a lot of the valuable weapons that you're going to be putting on your champions are probably going to be scarce, such as plasma guns. So if you go out of ammo, you can't actually re-roll it. You can't actually reload it because it's scarce and you're out for the rest of the game. So yeah, basically the Bravado skill set is not very good compared to some of the other skill trees, but there you go. Next up, we're going to look at legendary names. So this is House Orlock's unique mechanic. Every one of the house gangs in Necromunda gets a kind of unique mechanic, unique to their faction. And for House Orlock, it is legendary names. And this basically functions like an extra set of skills. You gain this in addition to regular skills. So you have your regular skill pick, and then you get to choose a legendary name. Each one has a positive, but it also has a negative. Some of the drawbacks are very, very bad, and some of the drawbacks are, not a big deal. So be sure to check out the positives and negatives of each one. Legendary names are divided up into 3 categories. You've got legendary escapes, feats of leadership, and improbable beatdowns. These are only for flavor, and if you want to randomly choose a name, like these 3 categories have no in-game effect. It's just, different flavors of them. You can take multiple ones from the same category or different ones, I think. There's no real problem with that. So when you start your gang, your leader and your champions can start with one, but anyone can get them mid-campaign. And yeah, like skills, I'm not going to go through all of them. Yeah, there's lots of choices, and I would recommend you choose one that fits the narrative of your particular character, as opposed to one that's just straight up, best choice. But you have a lot of choices, so lots to pick from. I'm not going to go through all of them. Obviously, there's loads, but here are some of my picks for ones that are pretty cool. Too pretty for Primus. Primus in this situation is talking about House Primus. So I guess you're just hot and famous. Pretty boy, pretty girl. If you take this name, it gives you extra credits if you survive the battle, which is very good. If you roll doubles, however, you give cash to your opponent, but someone gets paid, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, extra credits is very good, so I feel like most gangs are probably going to pick this up at least once. Um, as far as I can tell, there's no problem with, or no rule against taking the same legendary name on multiple characters. So theoretically, I think you could probably take this on each of your champions and your captain, and then you could take the fixer skill on your captain for like a big bucks build and just get huge amounts of money coming in at the end of each game, and then get super rich, and then retire, retire undefeated, and gold plate all your weapons, and pay bounty hunters to fight all your battles so you can stay at home. Yeah, that would probably be quite strong, and as far as I can tell, that is legal, but I would not recommend spamming anything because it's no fun. Necromunda is about making cool stories and cool characters, and taking the same choice on all of your characters is a bit dull, in my opinion. Another one that's pretty cool is Blade Breaker. So this means that when you get attacked in close combat, you roll dice and you have a chance to disarm incoming melee attacks. Yeah, this is pretty good if you plan to roll lots of sixes. Yeah, this is good for characters that are up close in close combat. So arms masters with hammers, or close support, close combat leaders. This is a pretty good one to choose from. Yeah, if you have a plan to roll lots of sixes at good moments, then yeah, this is going to come in very handy. Next up, Iron Hard. So this means that first serious injury or out of action the character gets per game instead turns into a flesh wound. So yeah, this is very, very good. It's like a get out of death free card once per game. However, if you go down, the whole gang does automatically fail the next bottle check. But yeah, generally I think this is a really good one. Keep your characters up a little bit stronger, little bit longer. Yeah, Ironhard is pretty cool, and again, maybe recommended for close combat guys, people who are going to be taking hits. Keep them in the fight a bit longer. Next one, Lucky, means that once per game, this character can change a dice roll to a 6. But the drawback is that they are always in the reinforcement deck if you are using reinforcements in the mission you're playing. So yeah, they'll always be somewhere else, or they'll come in after turn, whatever. But yeah, Lucky is pretty good, and I think it's quite a fun one and flavorful one. Keep in mind though that it's one roll of that character. It's not one roll for anything, so it would just be something that character is rolling, like a hit or a wound or something like that, or a save. It's not going to be one reroll, universal reroll for the entire team, but it's still very good. Next up, One Punch, and again, this is trading all of your attacks for a single attack, and that attack becomes like super high strength and AP. Does it combo with King Hit? As far as I can tell, unclear. If so, hilarious. If so, it's probably not super strong, but yeah, high gimmick potential. Next up, One Shot. This is kind of One Punch Man, but with a gun. Yeah, this means once per game you can automatically hit, but you cannot use it with blast weapons, template weapons, or rapid fire weapons. But yeah, this might be a really good one for a melter gun, a mining laser, or maybe a harpoon, auto-hitting harpoon. Can it be done? Maybe. Keep the faith, harpoon lovers. Right, next up, we've got the general roster advice. Things to think about before you start making your gang roster. Boys before toys. This is generally true for most gangs. More bodies will usually be better and more useful for you than a fully tricked out gang. More bodies with less equipment is better than a handful of guys with loads of gear. But Orlocks, I think, aim for 7 to 8 bodies minimum to start. I would probably come down closer to 8. I don't think I'd feel great bringing a 7 strong Orlock gang. Even if this means just bringing guys with stub guns, like super cheap bodies, just to keep it in, keep the numbers up. More elite gangs are possible, but it's a gamble. Basically, one of the problems with taking super elite gangs low number gangs is if you have a bad game and you end up with loads of fighters in recovery or dead, you'll go into your next game weaker, and then you encounter the dreaded death spiral. Yeah, so Necromunda is a game of chance, and because you're rolling so few dice comparatively compared to a game like 40k, there's much bigger chance of like swingy dice. Like one or two single bad rolls or good rolls will really change stuff, and that makes it really fun. But it also means that there's a chance that your super cool, super strong champion or leader will just get murked by a lucky shot. So yeah, having more bodies means that you're less likely to suffer from that. And yeah, if you go into a game with a lot of fighters out, then you'll go into the next game weaker, and then you'll lose that game, and then you won't gain credits, and then you'll lose more, and then you'll lose the next one. And yeah, this is called the death spiral, and it's a huge problem for Necromunda campaigns. And great Necromunda thinkers over the years have contemplated a lot of different possible ways to avoid this. Different different house rules for the campaign or something like that. But yeah, generally speaking, more bodies will keep you afloat if one or two of them go down. So it's recommended to bring bodies. Next up, mesh for the leader and champions, and full frontal nudity for everybody else. Okay, that's a slight exaggeration, but yeah, I would buy mesh armor for your leader and champions, and I probably wouldn't bother for your gangers. If you have some spare credits, you can hand out like some more armor, but in general, I think you're better off with more bodies. I like to buy armor for basic gangers after they've had a few games and maybe like got a kill or something like that. It's like a reward for surviving. But when you're fresh out the gate and it's a fresh gang, like they don't deserve armor. They can deal with getting shot. It's not a big deal. They can survive. And if they don't survive, then the armor's a waste anyway, right? But yeah, anyway, like if you have like 5 basic gangers and you buy them each a suit of flak armor, then that's the same price as like an extra gunner with a stub gun. Yeah, and I don't see no flak armor getting no +2 to hit at close range. Yeah, leave the armor at home and take more bodies. Buy armor as and when you have the credits in the future. Right, let's go on to Road Captain loadout ideas. So Road Captain is your leader. You have one in the gang, and he has a lot of loadout ideas. He has a lot of loadout options. So first thing to note is that the basic box doesn't give many great starting loadouts. The captain has got access to loads and loads of different weapon options: heavy weapons, close combat weapons, special weapons. The basic Orlock box is pretty good, but you don't have a lot of kind of fancy stuff to put on your captain. So yeah, keep that in mind. The captain has got a decent ballistic skill and a decent weapon skill. They're both 3 up, so he can do shooting and he can do close combat. The unique stat line aspect of the Orlock Road Captain is he's got 3 wounds. I think he's the only I think he's the only leader that starts with 3 wounds. I think this is really cool. I think this is a really cool bit of flavour. So your Goliath leader, he's got high toughness and he's this big brick, and you're shooting at him and he's, just shrugging off the damage because he's got a high toughness. But the Orlock captain, he's got 3 wounds, so you're shooting him and the wounds are going through and he's taking it, but he's got 3 wounds, so he's just kind of, struggling through it anyway. It feels like a regular human who's just like a badass compared to Goliaths who are like, more than human and, kind of like big muscle monsters. So yeah, I think 3 wounds on an Orlock leader is really cool bit of kind of fluff meets rules. Yeah, Orlock leaders have got a really good house weapon list. They've got a little bit of everything. The best way to approach loadout on a leader is decide the role that you want your leader to do and then choose weapons and skills as appropriate. There's a few different suggestions that I've got here. First up is the close-up loadout. So this is close combat or kind of counter charge. Power pick, servo claw, plasma pistol, stub gun, and then give him mesh and the nerves of steel skill. Yeah, You got a lot of close combat options, and you can also go cheap and then, you know, have a look in the trading post later if you want to. If you want to go more range loadout, you know, plasma gun, never a bad choice to have a plasma gun. You could also go heavy bolter, have a heavy weapons leader. And then a good skill to go for a character like that would be Munitioneer, so you get the rerolls on failed ammo checks. And then finally you could go for kind of a support leader, which is quite popular on a lot of leaders. And then you go with something like a bolter or grenade launcher with a kind of medium to medium range weapon. Maybe a combat shotgun as well, because combat shotguns are relatively cheap and pretty dangerous if you get backed up into a corner. And then you can go with something like Overseer or Fixer, you know, keep him out of trouble, get the credits going in, you know, do some grenades or some combat shotgun when the opportunity arrives. So yeah, road captains. So yeah, I think Orlock leaders have got a lot of interesting things that they can do. So that's cool. Next up, your champions. So Road Sergeant is your kind of vanilla flavor champion. And the Road Sergeant is your shooty champion because he's got a good ballistic skill and an average weapon skill. So the Road Sergeant isn't really your close combat character. Plasma guns are always worth a look. If you have a plasma gun available on your house list and you're not having a plasma gun, you should at least ask yourself why you are not having a plasma gun. You don't necessarily have to have one, but you know, give yourself a reason not to take it. Because yeah, they're very, very good. So yeah, plasma guns are very good. They're always worth having a look at, and if they're available to you, then you know, give it a look and give it a thought. Next up, if you want a longer range weapon, then you've got the heavy stubber or the heavy bolter. Heavy stubber is kind of the traditional Necromunda weapon. It's one of the classics from back in the day. They're not amazing these days, but the heavy stubber does come in the Orlock box, so that's a pretty good reason to take one. Heavy bolters are a little bit more expensive, but a lot better. Heavy stubbers do get two rapid fire 2, so they get the 2 ammo dice, so they can put out a lot of shots. But yeah, I think they're both pretty good choices if you want some heavy weapon action. And yeah, mining laser is maybe cheap enough to buy alongside some suspensors at gang creation. When I was playing around with lists, I did try and fit a mining laser and a suspensor in. It was pretty difficult, but you might be able to choose it. You might be able to get it working, and yeah, having that right at the start would be pretty nasty. So something to think about. And then your special Orlock champion is the Arms Master, and this is your close-up, close combat champion. Yeah, basically the Arms Master comes in 2 flavors. You got shotgun flavor and hammer flavor. So the combat, yeah, so you either give them like the combat shotgun or the regular shotgun, and then shotgun savant skill. That's one option. Or you give them the arc hammer and the nerves of steel skill for more close combat fighting. And worth noting that the model comes with both the combat shotgun and an arc hammer. So unlike some of the other champion options that you have, yeah, most of the really good choices are in the box. So that's a nice positive. Right, basic gangers. Basic gangers have a small weapons selection, but they're all pretty good. Auto guns are worth taking. Lots of the really good Orlock weapons are very close up, like shotguns and stuff like that, but don't neglect auto guns. You want to be able to pin targets at range and make people keep their heads down. If all of your stuff is, you know, really short range shotguns, then other people are going to outrange you and pin you, and you're going to probably have a bad day. So yeah, don't forget a few auto guns. And yeah, combat shotguns are for murdering people close up. Because combat shotguns have got a template, they're very, very good for basic gangers because you don't need to care about ballistic skill. And also, if you inevitably get murdered in return for being up close to the combat shotgun, you know, they're cheap. And the gangers can, you know, they're a ganger, so if they get killed them. It's no big deal. So yeah, combat shotguns and autoguns. A mix of those two weapons are a very good choice for starting gangers. And they both come in the Orlock box as well, so that's very good. Other options that you have are bolt guns. Bolt guns are the same price as a combat shotgun. And yeah, a bit more power, a bit more range. And then you also have regular shotguns, and a bit different. But you can probably get by with just auto guns and combat shotguns, really. And then finally, you have chainswords, flails, and stub guns if you want to dabble in close combat. So basic Orlock Ganger doesn't have has fairly vanilla stats, so they're not going to be amazing close combat. But you might want to have a character or two supporting your arms master, so they can charge in and fight alongside them. And in that situation, chainsword, flail, or stub gun will be get the job done. And then Orlock specialists get access to both special and heavy weapons. But out of all of these, I would say probably grenade launchers are the best choice because, you're still rocky at 4-up ballistic skills. So most of the other weapons are either too expensive or too risky to miss. But yeah, grenade launchers got the blast template, so if you miss, then it'll scatter and hit something. Next up, Juves. Greenhorns are your vanilla flavored Juves. They're cheap, but they are also awful. If you do want to use a basic Juve, then probably I'd just give them a stub gun and keep them super, super cheap. Their stats are pretty bad. They got movement 6, which is okay, but yeah, greenhorns are bad. Depending on which campaign you play, there's a pretty good chance that a lot of campaigns will occasionally randomly give you free Juves. So bear in mind that you might want to make some Juve models when you're making your gang if you're doing that kind of campaign. But yeah, as a starting gang, they're not a great bite, but next up, however, Wreckers. So Wreckers are the unique Juve type available to House Orlock, and yeah, they're really, really good. They are cheap bodies, and they're relatively cheap, and they've got a jump pack, jetpack, rocket pack, whatever you want to call it. So they move fast and they smash into people. They also have a ballistic skill of 4-up instead of 5-up, so that's not bad. And the other thing to note is that Wrecker jetpacks give you +1. Yeah, if you charge with the Wrecker jetpack, you get +1 to hit and +1 strength for that attack. So despite having a weapon skill of 5-up, they can actually be a bit nasty in close combat. And they're cheap enough that, if they don't kill anything in close combat and they die, then, whatever. That's their goal. So yeah, they do have a lot of cool options and lots of different ways to build them, depending on what equipment you give them. Here are some choices. First up, you can just keep them cheap. Just give them a basic 5-credit stub gun, and fast moving. They can get in. They can do coup de grace on people that you shot, and they can also grab loot or objectives or whatever. So yeah, cheap and cheerful is a good way to run a wrecker. Next up, you could give them demolition charges. So demo charges are only 1 shot, but even if you had more shots, then they probably wouldn't survive long enough to throw a second one anyway. Demo charges for 1-shot suicide grenade attacks. So yeah, you jump in and you throw the big 5-inch blast demo charge grenade, and you kill a lot of people, probably yourself as well. And worth noting that the interaction between the jump boost rules and the grenade rules means that if you throw the grenade on the same turn that you jump boost, which you should do because you're using the jump boost to get in grenade range. So yeah, using them both on the same turn means that you'll basically get a 50% chance of going out of action. Because the grenade rules means that every time you throw one, you have to make an ammo check. That's like built into being a grenade. And then using a jump booster means that the grenades become unstable, which means that when you make an ammo roll, 1, 2, or 3 just takes you out of action. So yeah, but my opinion is that in Necromunda you should be doing a pretty good job of trying to get your own guys killed as well as killing the enemy. Like, the main goal of Necromunda is to set as many things on fire or blow as many things up as possible, yourself included. So I see this as a positive and not a negative, but be aware of it. Another loadout option is you can give the Wrecker Hand Flamer, which is a more expensive but marginally less suicidal flame attacks. Very nasty. You jump in, you put down the Hand Flamer template, people are on fire. Yeah. Yeah, that's how that works. And then finally, if you want to do more close combat and fighty, you can give them a flail or a chainsword for fast moving close combat threat. So yeah, as I said, you get +1 hit and +1 strength when you charge with a jump booster. Flail also gives you +1 to hit and +1 strength. Chainsword gives you +1 hit and rending, I think. So yeah, you turn from a mediocre Juve into a passable close combat character with these items. You probably won't survive very long, but yeah, a bunch of wreckers coming in and jumping in with flails and chainswords I think would be pretty cool. Next up, brutes, beasts, and hangers-on. So these are all the additional non-core gang members of your gang. The unique brute for Orlock is the cargo servitor. This is basically a kind of a servitor that's used for carrying stuff. There's no official model as of time of recording. I've seen people make conversions using the Cataphracti destroyers, I think, from the Adeptus Mechanicus, because cargo servitors are kind of generally understood to be kind of like little tank tread servitor things. But yeah, you can basically go nuts and convert whatever you want from it. They're pretty nice. They're basically a shooty brute, which is kind of unique. They don't have amazing ballistic skill, but they can move and shoot because they're, a big servitor. Yeah, these are very expensive brutes, but they are cool. If you buy it, then I would definitely recommend taking the heavy bolter upgrade. That the harpoon launcher and the heavy stubber are not really, if you're going to spend some money on it, spend some credits on a cargo servitor, I'd go all the way and get heavy bolter. Yeah, that's my opinion on a cargo servitor. I mentioned this back at the start, but Orlock get ambots for a discount, and ambots are very cool, so that's great. And Ogryn are also available. Poor old Ogryn. The Orlock beast is the Cyber Mastiff, which is a kind of cyborg doggy. And this is pretty expensive, and its combat stats are basically average to trash. But it's got a very useful skill, which is preventing its owner from being coup de grace, as long as it's alive and within range. So yeah, this is pretty good as like a buddy for an Arkhammer Armsmaster, like a character that's on the front lines mixing it up. You can keep the character from going down just for like a turn or just a little bit longer, so that you can get some friends in there and save him. It's also quite a good combo with the Unstoppable skill, which I think gives you a improved roll to get back up again. So yeah, expensive, so probably not good to take at the start of your campaign, but yeah, Cyber Doggy is cool. And then hangers-on, again, there are loads and loads of different hangers-on available to your gang, and some of them are unique, and yeah, this is not an exhaustive list, but here are some notable hangers-on to talk about. So the Bullet Merchant is pretty good once you start having cash to spend at the trading post. But yeah, this is like later on, upgrading your guns to get more ammo. So I wouldn't really choose this one as a starting hanger-on. I think there's probably better ways to spend your credits, kind of start of the campaign. But yeah, once you're on a roll and you start getting income and maybe you get a reputation big enough to get multiple hangers on, bullet merchants are a good investment once you start, going shopping regularly at the trading post. Grease Monkey is really expensive and this doesn't seem like a great choice. You can either like overcharge a brute or you can overcharge all your wreckers. Yeah, overcharging the wreckers isn't awful, but grease monkeys are kind of expensive, and hangers on you don't. There are better choices for the hanger on slot. Yeah, bit disappointing that one. And then the last unique Orlock hanger on is the prize fighter. So I mentioned a few times that Orlocks have multiple ways to get money, get credits coming in. They got the Fixer skill. They've got the Too Pretty for Primus. Send out your sexy Orlock leader to a leather daddy photo shoot. I think that's how that works. And yeah, Prize Fighter is another one. So Prize Fighter is basically, he's Brad Pitt from Snatch. I've seen him described that way, and now incredibly vivid in my head. That's connection that will never go away. But yeah, he's basically like a bare knuckle brawler, and you can send him into fights between games and gamble on him and get some money coming in. Yeah, he's relatively cheap, and just one or two good rolls will pay for himself. There is a chance he'll die, but chance of your own characters dying is part of the game. So yeah, I would probably get a prize fighter as soon as possible. Again, getting more income means that you can spend more money on better weapons and get more toys and that kind of stuff. So yeah, prize fighter seems like a good choice. And Rogue Doc is also a great investment. Yeah, this kind of goes for most of the houses. Yeah, having a doctor that can look after your injured is never a bad thing. Right, and what to aim for after your first few games. So this is a section that I have put into my tactics videos, my advice videos. If you look around on the internet, then you can find some general tactics for starting out, and you can find some, starting list, starting roster ideas. There's loads of really cool channels out there that do this kind of thing. But I've seen very few or no advice for after your first few games. If you're new to Necromunda, new to this house, or new to the game in general, and you're playing a campaign, and you won your first game or you've lost your first game, and then you'll look at the trading post and you've got credits and you're overwhelmed with options. So I made this little section of the video for people who are new to campaigns and maybe want a bit of guidance about what to spend their credits on. So yeah, first up, get more bodies. I would suggest try and expand until you've got 10 to 12 strong gang of a combination of champions and juves and the basic house gangers. You basically want to give yourself enough bodies to survive a bad game and still be able to go into the next one with a strong roster. Get more champions and more nice guns. You want a variety of characters that are able to go into a game, random games, and kick ass. Yeah, also get some more combat shotguns. Yeah, you can never have enough combat shotguns. Next up, get some wreckers. So, assuming you have access to the wrecker miniatures, you'll probably want to put some in your starting list. However, they can get expensive at gang creation. So once you've got a bit of income and a bit of credits to play with, you've won a game or two, now's the time to experiment with different loadouts. So yeah, wrecker with hand flamer is maybe a bit expensive for starting out, but yeah, now's the time to make people hate you by jumping hand flamers directly into their faces. And yeah, you can also give your wreckers blasting charges or incendiary charges from the trading post. They're not on your house list, but they're grenades, and yeah, you can do fiery grenade suicide charges, which is cool. Yeah, wreckers can take. I think wreckers get access to any close combat weapon from the trading post, so there's probably some fun combos you can put in there. Next up, make sure you have some good long range options. So bolt guns and a heavy weapon or two. You basically want the ability to do some hurt and some control at range. You might not be able to murder people at long range compared to some other, more long range gangs. But you definitely want to make the enemy put their head down and, think twice about strolling out into the open. Get some smoke grenades. You want smoke grenades to block incoming fire so you can get up into combat shotgun range. Regular smoke grenades are available on your house list, but smoke grenade ammo for grenade launchers is not. So once you get to the trading post, it's probably worth picking up some smoke ammo for grenade launchers. That is a wise early buy. Yeah, and once you've kind of ticked off all of those and you feel fairly happy with your gang being able to compete in those options, and you've got a bit of cushion for if some of your characters go down. After that, you're probably at a stage when you can afford to spend money on luxuries. So ambots, hangers on, go to the trading post and get like a las cannon or something crazy like that. But this is not a completely exhaustive list. Your mileage may vary. Your campaign will be different to my campaign. Your playstyle will be different to my playstyle. This is general advice in a kind of, incredibly vague map. But yeah, your journey through your campaign might be different. And there are probably some options that I missed. Rogue Dock, again, is always a good investment. But yeah, have fun. Definitely choose the fun option above the powerful option. And that and some lucky dice rolls and you'll have a good time. Right, hobby tips. So yeah, this is kind of stuff to know about physically building a Orlock gang. So hobby tips, converting bit tips, stuff about which ranges to raid for extra bits. So first up, Imperial Guard kits are a very good place to source bits for Orlocks. This goes for any human, basic size human. Imperial Guard scions, I think, if you know anyone who has a bunch of scions, you might be able to steal some special weapons from them. And Imperial Guard scions, I think they have like chunky gloves, so it shouldn't be too difficult to get an Imperial Guard weapon onto an Orlock body. And the other main range to get into is the Gene Stealer cultists. And of note, if you want to try some of the more interesting house weapons, like the power pick or mining lasers or seismic cannons, they are only available from the Gene Stealer cult kit. So yeah, if you're looking in the Necromunda section of the web store, then you're not going to find these weapons. Yeah, any human-sized heads from any range should work. Some of my models I've used like Chaos Marauder heads or anything. So yeah, look around and have fun with it. Worth noting, every member of the gang is on a 25mm base, except for the Arms Master, who's on 32mm base. This is for if you want to do some kit bashing or proxy or counts as, and you care about base sizes, then now you know about that. So there's nothing in the Arms Master's kit or stats that make them huge. But yeah, officially they are bigger boys. Like the Goliath Stimmers have stats and special rules that make them, big, beefy boys. So having the bigger model makes sense. But Arms Masters, in terms of like background and stats and equipment, basically just regular humans as well. So personally, I wouldn't really mind if you showed up with like a 25mm champion and you said that was an Arms Master, but yeah, be aware that the official model is on a bigger base. Right, next up, let's look at example starting gangs. This one is one box WYSIWYG. One box WYSIWYG. So if you're not aware, WYSIWYG means what you see is what you get. And this is a concept that is common in wargaming and Warhammer specifically, where your miniatures on the battlefield can have certain options on, written on the list, and how that connects to what's actually physically on the model. And yeah, your mileage, your campaign group may have stricter or more lenient rules about what is WYSIWYG, but this is a gang that you can build physically from one box and have it be completely legal. So everything on the list you can build from one box. So yeah, we got a road captain, and he's got a combat shotgun and a servo claw and mesh armor, and he's got the nerves of steel skill. We got a road sergeant with a harpoon launcher, stub gun, mesh armor, nerves of steel. Road sergeant with a heavy stubber, mesh armor, nerves of steel. And then we got two combat shotgun gunners. Gunners being the name for basic Orlock gang members. And then we got two gunners with auto guns, and then rounding out the list we got a cheap ass greenhorn with a stub gun. Yeah, so you can build this from the basic sprues. Technically, I think all of the combat shotguns available on the sprues are being held two-handed. So if you want to make a road captain with a combat shotgun and a servo claw, you will probably have to do a little bit of like file down one of the hands on the combat shotgun. If you're not into that and you don't want to cut anything, you just want to build it straight out the box, drop the servo claw and take a power knife instead, which you can represent on the model and without needing to hold it in the hands, and is be like 5 credits cheaper. I think it's 25 instead of 30. But yeah, you can build this out of the box, and I've given each of the characters nerves of steel because it's a good one size fits all. It's it's useful, and it's not terribly complicated to get working. And yeah, I think in terms of power, I think this is a pretty good list. Harpoon launchers are, to my eternal sorrow, not especially good, but heavy stubbers are pretty good. You got a bunch of combat shotguns in there. You got some auto guns. Your heavy weapon means you got some range. Greenhorn is cheap, but he's fast. Yeah, I think you could take this and as a base, and you could do pretty well with it. Next up is one box and a bit of converting. So this is assuming you have the one basic gang box, but you also have access to a bits box, either your own or a friend, and you don't mind doing a little bit of chopping, converting, stuff like that. So bits needed to make this particular list: you'll need a plasma pistol, you'll need a plasma gun, you'll need a bolt gun, and you'll need a 32mm base for the Arms Master, if you care about Arms Masters being on 32mm bases. So the philosophy behind this one is that I feel like a large number of Warhammer players, yourself or a friend, are probably going to have Space Marines, and people with Space Marine armies, there's a pretty good chance that you'll be able to find a plasma pistol, a plasma gun, and a bolt gun. I mean, maybe not. But yeah, I feel like these weapons are not too difficult to source, and if you can get your hands on them, then you can build this gang. So in this gang, we've got a road captain with a servo claw, a plasma pistol, and mesh armor. So he's built for a little bit more close-up, a bit more fighty, and he's got true grit, which means that he's a little bit more difficult to wound. And then we got a road sergeant with a plasma gun, a stub gun, mesh armor, and nerves of steel. So nerves of steel keeps him up, so he can keep moving or do some aiming with the plasma gun. Stub gun is there because of in case you run out of ammo with the plasma gun. I think generally speaking, WYSIWYG people, generally accepted that stub guns and like basic pistols and knives and stuff don't have to be represented on the model. I don't think most people would care about that. you know, you can imagine that he's the character's stuck a stub gun into his trousers, or you know, inside a jacket or something like that. Arms Master with combat shotgun and mesh armor, and he's got shotgun savant. And then we got 2 gunners with combat shotguns. We got a gunner with a bolt gun, and then 2 gunners with auto guns. So quite a lot of firepower from this list. Yeah, we got the road captain and the arms master who are gonna get up close and do some fighting and some shotgunning. We got a bunch of combat shotgun guys to come in close with them, and you know, getting close and combat shotgun a bunch of people. And then the road sergeant with the plasma gun can hang out at the back with the bolt gun guy and the auto gun guys and take people down at range and pin. So this is 990 credits, so you got 10 in the bank. So you could buy a suit of flak armor for one of your basic guys, or you could keep keep a little bit of credits in the bank for next game. Next up, we got both boxes and the upgrade pack. So this is assuming you buy the basic Orlock gang box and the Orlock champion box, and also the weapons pack upgrade. And for this one, we've got a road captain with a grenade launcher and a stub gun and mesh armor. And this is more of a support leader for this build. And we've given him munitioneer, so he gives the rerolls for ammo checks. And we got a road sergeant with plasma gun, stub gun, mesh armor, and nerves of steel, same as before. This time we've got an arms master with an arc hammer, mesh armor, nerves of steel. Nerves of steel is just a really good skill. And then we've got 2 wreckers, both with stub guns. One of them's got a chainsword, so they're going to jump in. The chainsword wrecker can go in and try and fight someone in close combat, you know, try and get him into someone who's doing some shooty, or, you know, jump over a wall or get people like that. And then the other wreckers, just a cheap guy with a stub gun, cleanup duty, counter-charging, grabbing objective, something like that. Then we got 1 gunner with a combat shotgun, 1 gunner with an auto gun, and a gunner specialist with grenade launcher and stub gun. So we got 2 grenade launchers here, and the captain can hang out in range of the other grenade launcher, and you know, you've got the ammo reroll on the grenade launcher, which is pretty good. I don't know if 2 grenade launchers at gang creation is a bit too much, but that's what we've gone with here. I had 10 credits left over, so I put flak on the combat shotgun gunner. My reasoning for giving the 1 suit of flak armor to the combat shotgun guy is that the auto gun guy is going to be hanging back, so maybe is less likely to get shot, same as the specialist, and the 2 wreckers are most likely to get killed anyway, just because they're going into dangerous situations. So the combat shotgun guy will be up close, more likely to get fire, so he gets the flak armor. You could drop that and, you know, have some in the bank, or give it to someone else if you prefer. And then finally, my personal starting gang. So this is not based on what I think is most powerful. This is not based on, you know, secret techniques that I have. This is based on models that I personally own. Pictures that you've seen in this video are of my own personal gang. This is also loadouts that I want to try, or, you know, models that I want to make. Like, I really want to make a road sergeant with a mining laser. I think it'll be cool, and I've got a conversion in mind. So yeah, I put all of those flavor aspects that I like together, and I came up with this list. We got a road captain with a power pick, a plasma pistol, and mesh armor, and I've given him fixer because, money. We've got a road sergeant with mining laser and mesh armor and nerves of steel. Might be a bad choice, might be a good choice. Let's find out. Arms master with an arc hammer and mesh armor and nerves of steel for up close arc hammer action. We got 2 cheap wreckers with stub guns. The idea is after a game or 2, if they're still alive, we can buy them something a bit more potent, some grenades or something like that. And then we got 2 gunners with combat shotguns, because combat shotguns are amazing. And then finally we got 1 basic gunner with a basic auto gun. And there you have it. That is my personal starting gang. If I was going to do a campaign and I was going to start an Orlock gang, this is probably what I'd be tempted to pick. And yeah, there you have it. Yeah, remember to stay leather, by which I mean leather jackets or, you know, whatever. Yeah, that's the end of the video. Thanks for making it to the end. Yeah, these lists and tactics are basically aimed at new people and people who are just starting out and maybe don't have the resources to get like all the options available to them. In the future, though, I might go back and do some more list videos and you know, make some like how high-powered starting lists for different gangs, or maybe like some themed starting lists. But for now, yeah, this is just for new people. So I hope you found that useful, and thanks for watching to the end of the video, and I'll be back again in the future with more videos on Necromunda. Yeah, bye!